Our next speaker is going to be Governor Gary Johnson. Gary, come on up. Please give him a warm welcome.
So I'm viewing this as a job interview, and I want to make the most out of it. I am running for President of the United States. I'm running to get the nomination and the Republican ticket. So I would like you all to know that first and foremost, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. Since I've been 17 years old, I've paid for everything that I've had, and I would have started a one-man handyman business in Albuquerque in 1974, and 20 years later I had 1,000 employees, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, pipe fitting. Really, American dream come true, just doing what you said you'd do for people. Keeping your word, being on time, just the simplest of notions. I sold that business in 1999. Nobody lost their job, and that business is doing better than ever. And that gave me my financial freedom, something that I had always set as a goal. Having enough money to be able to do what I want to do, when I want to do it. And that doesn't take that much money, but that's where I'm at. And entrepreneurially speaking, running for governor of New Mexico, that was entrepreneurial. I've run for 2 political offices in my life, governor of New Mexico and re-elected as governor of New Mexico. I'm an athlete. I've been an athlete my entire life. I think you want to elect a president who's got some stamina and some goal setting and determination and all that goes along with athletics. And I've been doing this my entire life. I have competed in the Ironman triathlon in Hawaii 4 times, just kind of epitomizing what I've done. And I've actually had the good fortune to climb Mount Everest. I actually got to stand on top of the planet, which was really a special experience. And people ask me, wow, what was it like to conquer Mount Everest? Well, let me tell you, I did not conquer Mount Everest. She lifted her skirt and gave me a peek, and it was really pretty darn special. I really viewed that as something pretty darn special. But back to politics. You know, my entire life I have viewed politics as a high calling, to be in a position to do good by others. And I realize that notion of good is really up for definition. But getting elected governor of New Mexico, my idea was really issues first, politics last. Try and understand the issues. That was my pledge. I was going to understand what the issues were and make decisions based on what was best for New Mexicans as opposed to political. Politics was last on the agenda. I wanted to be smart. I wanted to understand every single one of these issues, and I wanted to make the best decision possible. And politics be damned. Understand the issues and then go out and defend the issues. Go out and change public policy. Woof! That's what you wanted to do. You wanted to, woof! Change public policy. That was me. So, one of the things I got known for as governor of New Mexico was I vetoed 750 bills while I was governor of New Mexico. Yeah! I had thousands of line item vetoes as governor of New Mexico. So yeah, dude. Putting that into context, that may have been more vetoes than the other 49 governors in the country combined. Now I have to tell you, it made a difference when it came to billions of dollars worth of spending. It made a difference when it came to laws, and because I controlled the agencies, because I controlled rules and regulations got a lot better because I had direct control over all of that, and that got better on a daily basis. But when it came to laws, look, government passes laws that affect our lives in adverse ways. They pass laws where they shouldn't be passing laws. They should leave those decisions to you and I firmly believe that. And I stood up and I stood stood up to this notion of what are we spending our money on and what are we getting for the money that we're spending. So in that context, I would have been more outspoken than any governor in the country on school choice, advocating bringing competition to public education. I mean, really, let's change education. I want to tell you that I really made a difference. So looking at what's facing this country right now, I believe we're on the verge of a financial collapse. I believe that we're on the verge of a monetary collapse, and that's simply due to the fact it's going to be a bond market collapse. It's going to be due to the fact that there is no repaying $14 trillion in debt when we're looking at racking up another 11 trillion over the next 8.5 years. There's no way. So in the last year, did you see where the Federal Reserve at one point was buying up to 70% of our treasuries? Well, what is the monetary collapse? What happens when our currency collapses? It's when the Federal Reserve ends up printing all of the money that we use to buy up those treasuries, and that is here and it's now because there's no appetite for those treasuries. It's here and it's now, and the effect that that has on all of us is all of our lives. We've been saving our money, we've been working hard, we got money in the bank, and it's not going to be worth anything. That's the collapse. The collapse is that the money that we've earned is not going to buy a thing. The Weimar Republic in Germany in the 20s, 120,000 Weinmarks in the mid-20s bought 120,000 Weinmarks bought a bungalow in Berlin. But a year later, 120,000 Weinmarks bought a loaf of bread. That's what happens in a monetary collapse, and that's where we're at. But, all right, that's the grim news, and it's grim and it's not sexy. But the good news is that we can fix this. We can fix this, and to fix this, we need to balance the federal budget. So I am promising, and based on my resume, there is nothing in my resume to suggest that what I'm going to be talking about here that I'm not going to actually go out and do. But I promise to submit a balanced budget in the year 2013. And I promise to veto legislation that doesn't balance the federal budget. And you could argue, well, Congress will override. Well, let Congress override. I just suggest to you that that budget will come a lot closer to being balanced if the people of this country elect a president promising to submit a balanced budget, promising to veto expenditures that don't balance that budget. It's going to come a lot closer than if you're going to elect a president who's going to do that over a 15 or a 20-year period, because that's the only prudent way to go about it. We need to balance the budget, and we need to kick out our tax system completely. Throw out our tax system and replace it with the fair tax. And I know that Herman Cain was just talking about it, but I'm the one, and I did this as governor of New Mexico, I did this in my business. You gotta go for what's right. You have to, so there's no phasing into the fair tax. You have to boot out the existing system and move directly into the fair tax. The fair tax is what its name implies. It's fair, it's very free market driven, it promotes savings, it does away with all federal tax. It does away with the income tax, it does away with Social Security withholding, it does away with corporate tax, business-to-business tax, Medicare, and unemployment tax. It does away with all those taxes, replaces it with one federal consumption tax, which is revenue neutral, but everybody is going to pay the fair tax. Nobody's not going to be able to pay the fair tax, and the fair tax also takes into account those under the poverty level, under the poverty line, so all of us in the country would receive a prebate check of $200 a month that would cover us paying the fair tax up to the point of the poverty level. It is fair. It would reboot the American economy. When we talk about jobs, Tens of millions of jobs would be created overnight in this country, because why would you start up, grow, nurture a business anywhere in the world other than the United States if we had a 0% corporate income tax rate? We wouldn't do that. We'd do it right here. We need to have free market approaches when it comes to energy. I'm the free market guy. I'm not the guy who says we should implement tariffs of any kind whatsoever, because when the government gets involved, when the government starts muddying things, there are unintended consequences, and that's what we're experiencing in this country right now, is something that's really unfair. It's corporations, it's groups, it's individuals that have had legislation passed that benefit them, as opposed to a system that benefits all of us equally. As governor of New Mexico, it was all about creating a level playing field. It was all about this notion of, in America, you can go from having nothing to having everything overnight if you're willing to work hard and innovate to make that happen. So I'm the free market guy. Education. Abolish the Federal Department of Education. Abolish housing and urban development. I am talking about a balanced budget, which would mean a 43% reduction in current government spending. I've been out on the stump now for 18 months. I'm out on the stump, and I'm at rallies where people are saying, balance the budget, balance the budget, balance the budget. And they're holding a sign that says, don't touch my Medicare. Nah, that doesn't happen. It's got to be everything. We've got to address everything. We've got to take this on, and it's very doable. So that means Medicaid and Medicare. Based on my experience in New Mexico, where we reformed Medicaid, I could have, as governor of New Mexico, made Medicaid work in New Mexico with 43% less money if the federal government would have taken away all the strings and mandates. I believe I could have done that for Medicare also, health care for those over 65. I believe I could have made that happen. So what I'm advocating is the federal government block grant the states a fixed amount of money, 43% less than what we're currently spending, and give it over to 50 laboratories of innovation, 50 laboratories of best practice, and that's exactly what would happen, is you would have that. You would have best practices. Best practices would get emulated, there'd be failure, failure would get avoided, but the notion that Washington knows best, that Washington top-down has the answers, that's just not the case. And then you've got to look at military spending. Can we provide a strong national defense for this country and cut military spending by 43%? I say yes. The operative words being defense as opposed to offense and nation building. Let's stop. I was opposed to Iraq from the get-go. I said, hey, where's the military threat? I think we have the military surveillance capability to see Iraq roll out any weapons of mass destruction. If they do that, we can go in and deal with that situation. I thought if we went into Iraq, we would find ourselves in a civil war to which there would be no end. Afghanistan, I thought initially that was totally warranted. That's what our military is for. We were attacked, we attacked back, but after being in Afghanistan for 6 months, we wiped out Al-Qaeda. That was 10 years ago. We're building roads, schools, bridges, highways, and hospitals in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places on this planet. And don't we have those same needs here in this country? And aren't we borrowing 43 cents out of every dollar to do that? This is crazy. Libya. I'm opposed to Libya, A through Z, and issued a paper on that immediately. Where was the military threat? Where in the Constitution does it say that because we don't like a foreign leader, we should go in and topple that foreign leader? Where was the congressional authorization to go into Libya? Haven't we injected ourselves in a civil war in Libya, and don't 5 other countries right now in the Middle East qualify for that same intervention? There just doesn't seem to be an end to what we do and the unintended consequences that go along with that. Last night, I had the experience from hell in the airport in Washington, D.C. The Constitution, what is it? The Constitution Free Zone where you go into the airport? That's where I went. I went into the Constitution Free Zone. And I'm supposed to board the plane at 8 o'clock. And there was weather, and then there was a crew problem, so they were going to load it up at 11. So 12:30 we're loading up the plane, and the plane doesn't boot up, so we have to empty the whole plane out. And we have to move to a new plane, and we end up in the new plane, and it's now 3 a.m. and the pilot comes out and says, "I've gone over my time, I can't fly," and that's federal regulation. And I have to tell you, I vetoed that kind of stuff. I vetoed that kind of stuff. I would have never, ever established the Department of Homeland Security. It's completely duplicative. Completely duplicative. I would have never established TSA. Never. Leave airport security to the airlines. I dare say security would be as safe today, and it would be less intrusive. And maybe for some of us that really want security, you go into the stripped down naked airline to go through security. Other places maybe give you an option that maybe is a little more freedom based. Look, right after 9/11, we secured the cockpit doors, making it theoretically impossible for an airplane to ever be used as a missile again. We did that. And most importantly of all, after 9/11, we as Americans, we don't sit there and watch shenanigans go down by a fellow passenger. We're on top of that fellow passenger. That's what we've done in this country, and that's what makes us safe, and that's what's always made us safe. So there's my pitch. Look, I started out, I'm an entrepreneur. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think I could do the job. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think I had the resume to suggest that everything I'm talking about, you can count on the fact that I'm going to actually go out and try and make that happen. From an entrepreneurial standpoint, you got to know, I am #1 when it comes to this campaign, when it comes to entrepreneurship, because the amount of money that we raise might be 1/300th of what the leader is. And I'm in this, I think I might end up actually winning California, the way that it might play out. And I've put my chips on the table here in New Hampshire. I want to tell you, I think this state is the best state that I've been to when it comes to politics and a political environment where people go out of their way. Really. I thought when I came to New Hampshire the first time, I thought people were going to go, "Oh no, not another one," when the reality was, yeah, come on in, sit down, tell me what you think, we're going to cuss, we're going to discuss. It is a terrific political environment. It's a terrific retail political environment where you can go from obscurity to prominence overnight, and that goes back to Eugene McCarthy, where he made a mark. New Hampshire is a place where a candidate like me, I come out of New Hampshire and it's a must-have ticket in South Carolina to hear Gary Johnson. I've never heard of him before, but look what happened in New Hampshire. Never heard of him before, but now I got to have a ticket to hear what it is that he had to say. So I'm putting myself in your hands, and if it doesn't turn out, hey, then gave it everything that I had, and by gave it everything that I had, talking about these issues from a fact standpoint, talking about these issues from what are the issues, and politics be damned. We have a huge problem in this country right now. It's got to be addressed, and if we're going to elect the status quo, I don't think we're going to have a country going forward. So that, and New Hampshire ends up validating the candidate that's going to go on and win for the rest of the country. So in that context, thank you for allowing me here to speak to you this afternoon, and it's really been an enjoyment. This is my 15th time to New Hampshire, and I've enjoyed every single trip, and before it's all over with, I hope I get to talk to each and every one of you, and by that I mean before the primary. Thank you very much.